How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Living Legends Podcast, a weekly Flesh and Blood podcast where we talk about all aspects of the Flesh and Blood trading card game, from news to maybe some meta stuff to maybe lore and everything in between. My name is Kel, also known as Red Zone Rogue, and I am joined, as always, by the boys, Az and Bill. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, gentlemen.
Yeah, who's going first? We always do this, don't we?
Yeah, I'll go first this time.
Cool.
First of all, I'd like to say, Kel, that was a very strong intro, and now I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to top that. But most of the time, we just sort of flounder around a bit, like what I'm doing now. I'm just trying to inject that back in so it doesn't feel too weird.
We got to maintain some sense of normalcy, right?
Yeah. Anyway, my name is Bill. I am from the Spike Feeders, and I am very excited. We talked a little bit about what we have on the brew for today, and it's going to be a really great time. And joined. The two of us are joined by a third person. Sorry, I lost steam immediately.
It was hard to follow up, right? But yeah, I am the third pry of the Living Legends podcast. My name's Az from Go Again Gaming. I can't wait to speak about some of the speculations that we have on the docket for today as a result of some previous news. That's all to come.
Yeah, today's going to be a really fun and exciting episode because it's basically just a lot of speculation and some news that was recently dropped by James White on the French Flesh and Blood YouTube channel L'Oeil de Fidia. I have a Fidia.
Well,
but in French. L'Oeil de Fidia. Something like that. I used to know how to speak French. We're going to talk about that. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's just kick it off. And we're just going to kick it off with... Oh, no. Actually, before we do that, let's rewind a little bit. Let's talk about our week in Flesh and Blood. For me, let's see. It's mostly just been more Uprising. Just lots and lots of Uprising. I finished opening all of my Uprising cases. If you'd like to know, I opened up 5 total. And I pulled almost everything I needed, and then I sold and traded for the 2 remainder cards that I needed, which was Flame Skull Furnace and a Blood of the Drakai. So
I was going to say, you see, I've seen a few Twitter posts. Did you manage to sort of trade out of the duplicates that you had then, did you? Or
yeah, it's pretty good. So, I spent a couple $1,000s on the set, 5 cases worth. And I ended up making back about $500 to $600, and then also on top of that traded for a Marvel Tumulti, which is one that I was missing, and then traded for the Flame Skull Furnace. I traded like a Rainbow Foil Ghostly Touch plus a Command and Conquer because I have a bunch of extra Command and Conquers. And then I just straight up bought a heart for, it was like $120 from Jim from Fab TCG cards. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. I'm not a heart. I'm sorry, a blood.
I was going to say.
Was it a rainbow foil or cold foil?
It's just a rainbow foil. I intend to shuffle that up and play with it quite a bit in my deck. Yeah. So what about you guys?
Nice. Shall I go?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Cool. So today, as of today, I did my first episode with Jim from Fab TCG Cards for the Azalea Cult video series.
The aforementioned Jim, the same Jim I bought my blood from.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the aforementioned Jim from Fab TCG Cards, lovely guy.
Yeah.
We kicked off the Azalea Cult, which will probably be coming out this week at some stage. So yeah, week in Fab is a nice little time to plug any content of ours, I guess. So that's what I'm going to do today.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we'll get you on at some point as well, because you spoiled most of the bows for Azalea, if not all of them.
I didn't spoil Death Dealer because in that set, instead of Death Dealer, I spoiled her specialization, Knock the Death Whistle.
Okay.
But what came along with that is I actually got to see Azalea, her bow, and Searing Shot in addition to the Knock the Death Whistle, because they're like, hey, you need to see these cards to understand what this card's even doing. So I got to see all that stuff, before anyone else, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, God, that seems so long ago. I wasn't even into the game back then in Arcane Rising. God,
Me neither.
It was. And maybe we could save this for a future episode, or maybe even the Azalea, series that you guys are doing. But that was actually my first spoiler video ever with any card game, and I was like super honored. I still am every single time they ask me to do it. I never take it for granted, but it was very special to me. So,
nice, yeah. So yeah, everyone's got that to look forward to. Wherever you might be listening now in the future, the Azalea cult is now active as of probably by the release of this podcast. It might be out. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, look forward to that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I want to mention this week because that's the forefront of my mind at least.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
For me, this week was just a lot of finalizing my collection. It's not quite final yet, but I made some pretty big strides. Right now, the only two big cards that I'm missing, I have copies of them, but there's a higher rarity version that I need. I have every legendary. All of them are cold foil except for Crown of Providence. I have a Blood of the Decry, rainbow foil. I need that to be cold foil. And I'm missing the Phoenix Flame, the Angry Ashwing, and then I think the two Marvel, or two of the three Marvel legendaries.
It's not bad, is it?
Yeah, I'm getting very, very close. All of the dragons, I have them on their reverse side, like the not the invocation side, but their actual their dragon side, and the entire page just looks phenomenal. There's no borders anywhere.
I should mention, it'll be out. I think the video will be out before this, or maybe shortly after this. So maybe this will be a spoiler, but I ended up pulling that awesome alt art Ashwing, and I was very excited for that. I was going to ask you, Bill, do you try to set collect, or do you? It sounds like you're set collecting, but I was just curious if you set collect or if you just play set collect.
I set collect. That's what I've been trying to do at least since Tales of Aria, which was my first set. But what I'm doing for this, it sort of depends on the set how I want to collect it. Like for Tales of Aria and for Everfest, I collected at least one of everything, but then for Everfest, I was able to collect like 3 of the extended art and the rare, the item cold foils, because they were just super plentiful and people throwing them in for trades and stuff. So I did most of that. I'm missing a little bit, but I'm pretty close for most of those. And then for this one, for Uprising, I'm going for one of everything except for things that are related to the Phoenix Flame engine. So I'm going to be getting 3 of the Marvel Phoenix Flames to actually play with.
Nice.
And then 3 of each of the extended arts of, Phoenix Form. I have the Inflame. Rouse the Flames or something.
There's a handful of them.
Yeah. So I need those. I already have the Inflames, but I don't have anything else. So
Gotcha.
That one's still a little bit out there, but and I think I might be missing 2 of the cold foil common equipments.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the wizard cloak and stuff. But yeah, so the idea is get at least one of everything that is collectible, and then get play sets of whatever it is that I actually super care about.
That makes sense. I'm half and half. So I try to get my number one goal is to get a play set of everything, just so I can make decks, so I can make any deck that I want, or if I ever have to play test a deck, I can just build it no matter what. But secondary to that, and this is true for all the sets leading up to here, is I want, obviously I want one of all the cards, but for the legendaries, I want them to be, previously I wanted them to be first edition, and now since there's no more first edition, I just want them all to be cold foil. And for Uprising, I traded for a rainbow foil Furnace, and I opened up a rainbow foil Crown of Providence. And I would like to get those both converted to cold foil at some time, so I can have a set. Those are the only 2 that I don't have that aren't in cold foil. And then the Fabled, of course. And I would like to get that at some point as well. But for the time being, I just needed to get some stuff real quick. I didn't want to spend too much money because I already dropped $2,000 on the set. So I was like, hey, let's earn some money back, get like $500-$600 back selling cards, and then get the last couple things that I need, so I can immediately jam a UPF, which is the goal for those two cards, the Flame Scale and the Blood. You're going into my UPF absolutely. Deck. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
at the moment. Yeah, at the moment, I'm just any products that I get is just turning into basically commoner and rare decks. Yeah, just like pure budget decks that then you can experiment with, and if you like the sort of shell of the hero that you're trying out, you can pretty much do that with one or two boxes. You can put like a commons and rares deck together, and if you like the sort of synergies in the hero as they play with the commons and rares, you can then start adding the majestics or legendaries that you need to make it more consistent. And I also want to take those decks to the Tuesday night stuff that I do now at my local game store, which actually kicked off last week. I should have mentioned that in my this week's in Fab. I did that, and it was a little success. A couple of players turned up just to start. So that's why I like doing boxes. Just getting all the bulk is what I like most of the time.
Yeah.
If I pull something good like a Blood of the Drakai on stream, then that's fantastic as well.
Well, you got Blood of the Drakai and Crown of Providence, right? Like that was the same. Same, either the same 3 boxes or the same box.
That was the same box, in fact. Yeah, it was a God box. That one.
I think out of
crazy.
You guys, and then Jim and Steven, I think I'm the only one who hasn't opened a Blood of Drakai. I did not open one in the like 20 whatever boxes that I opened.
Wow!
But someone sent me a spreadsheet. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Actually, it's on my Discord. Yeah,
a spreadsheet on pull rates or something.
Yeah, so shout out to, he just goes by Jag22, but he's like, hey, I just thought this might be interesting data. He opened up 40 cases, 160 boxes, and then it was a spreadsheet of his pull rates, and he found, in that number, he opened up 2 cold foil fables and 7 rainbow foil, 2 cold foil and 7 rainbow foil. So the cold foil fable was about 1 in 80 boxes, and the rainbow foil was about 1 in 23. So I just needed to open up 3 more boxes, and I could have got there.
That's it. That's the average.
Then it's guaranteed, right?
Yeah, that's how it works, right? I thought it was pretty interesting. It seems about right based on what people were saying. So the cold foil is like twice as more rare as it used to be, but the rainbow foil seems to be almost twice as like doubly likely than the previous one. So I actually really like that. From a player's perspective and a collector perspective. It means the cold foils are harder to get, but it also means you can get the rainbow foils easier, so players can play with them, which is great.
Yeah, so the collectible side of it, like the big hit side of it, is harder, but when you get it, it's like even better sort of thing. Or what you can do is you can buy 3 boxes, leave them on your desk for a week, and just manifest. Manifest that a Blood of Drakai is going to pop out, and that's what happens.
It worked well enough for you.
I want to say a couple other stats from this. By no means is this like definitive. It's only 40 cases. 40 cases is a lot, but you'd want a vastly bigger sample size to say things definitively. But I think it's just interesting. For him, the Majestic Marvel pull rate was 1 in 7 boxes. So that's the 3 Dragons of Legend. So it's pretty hard to get, right? That's like almost 1 in 2 cases. And then the Cold Foil Legendary is 1 in 9 boxes. So that's over 1 in 2 cases. While the Rainbow Foil Legendary is 1 in 3 boxes, which does seem about right. Which is a good pull rate. I kind of wanted the Rainbow Foil Legendaries to be a little bit more common, like 1 in 3, 1 in 2, so people could have access to them or buy them for a lot cheaper than what they are. So I thought that was very interesting. And
it's a nice collectible set, isn't it? It's the first time we've seen this, and I think it's worked really, really well. You've still got all of the standard cards. If you're a player and you don't really care about the aesthetic, you can still get your hands on the Majestics and Invokes and all that sort of thing for a fairly decent price. And I think it's hitting a lot of areas all at once. The fact that they've changed this model now, which I think is great, really.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's awesome. You know, also I think is awesome. This is what you call a segue. This is
Oh,
what you
yeah,
call a
I like that.
segue.
That's good. Yeah.
Speculation. So we are gonna speculate on a bunch of stuff, and we have 2/3 things in particular, and we're gonna kind of compartmentalize them. So I'm gonna give you a little tidbit of what we're gonna be talking about. We're gonna talk about the Emperor of Volcor. We're gonna talk about Emperor Volcor as a card in the Dynasty set. We're gonna also talk about a new class in Dynasty, as well as a new hero in Dynasty, and then maybe after all that, if they all coincide, or maybe they don't coincide. So yeah, let's kick it off, starting to talk about the Emperor of Volcor in Dynasty. What do you guys think about this? Like,
so before we go into the subjects, can we recap where the source was from for this? Because I think I remember seeing it, but I don't remember watching it or digesting all of it.
Yeah, so I mentioned this at the top of the show, but this is all from the James White interview done on the YouTube channel Loyal Defidia.
Oh, you did say that. Yeah, my bad.
No, it's good. We'll give them another shout out. They're great dudes. Yeah. I actually met them at the Pro Tour. At least I met one of them at the Pro Tour, I think. Yeah. Maybe both. I don't remember. I met a lot of people. Anyway, they're great channel. And then like they're pioneers of the French community for Flesh and Blood.
Absolutely. And the Emperor was mentioned on this video.
Yeah, a lot of things were mentioned, actually. Everything that we talked about, or that I mentioned. So, yeah, the Emperor of Volcor is going to be in the Dynasty set as a hero. And
wow, okay.
James White specifically used the pronoun he, and he also said that it's gonna change. It's gonna be a very unique thing for Flesh and Blood. It's going to be basically touching new territory. So what
he said splashy as well, didn't he? I think he said splashy.
Yeah, it made it sound spicy. What do you guys think of this? And do you maybe have any speculations on who it could be, or is it an entirely new character? What do you guys think?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me, just to kick off the discussion, is Command and Conquer. Okay. Is that the Emperor in the Command and Conquer art?
I don't know.
Because he's wearing the Volcor armor. He's commanding a legion of troops in the art. So, is that him, or is that just? That's a starting point.
I always thought that dude was a general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always just assumed he was like a general of the Volcor army. But I mean, like, he could be the Emperor.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you look at the Command and Conquer art, you've got he's obviously pointing his finger. I mean, yeah, I guess he's maybe commanding his army, a general, as you say, and obviously on the art as well, there's like a battle plans. So there's a person in the background, like showing him this scroll, like a battle tactic, like Command and Conquer. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe this isn't the Emperor. Maybe this is just a general. So that's my theory out the window. Bill, what have you got?
I'm just not sure. I mean, we know that Kano is an important figure in Volcor, right?
Yeah.
What did we determine that he was again? I think it's been like mentioned, but for some reason I just can't recall it right now.
Drakai of Aether.
Yeah, he's the Drakai of Aether, right? Mm-hmm. Is that what his subtitle is on the card?
Kano? Yes, so,
yeah, that's his official That's what shows up on his business.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. It's on his CV. He has very high rank in the courts of Volcor. Though his weapon, the Crucible of Aetherweave, is like a very I don't know what you want to call it, like a relic of the Empire. It's like a very treasured item. So the fact that he wields it is like a big deal. And I don't quote me on this. Some people have been talking about how Kano is related to the Emperor. I don't know if that's true. I kind of thought Dromai and Phi were, but maybe they're not. I'm a little confused as to the story, because as the time of this recording, we don't have Dromai or Phi's story yet out on the articles. We don't have them yet. But it's heavily implied that they have some sort of claim to the throne, I think. Whether they're children or something else, like I don't know.
Yeah, because that would make sense. That would be why they're the two sort of they represent the two main factions of the Civil War that are happening in in Volcor or like around Volcor. It's very Volcor themed at the very least, and draconic, Drakai. I don't know if that's just me word associating too hard, but yeah, I was gonna say I don't want to accuse Kano of nepotism, but like maybe he's related to the Emperor.
Yeah.
Could be like Kano's stepdad.
It says on the website, it says, as a member of the royal court, Kano must inevitably take on his duty and accept his place amongst the Drakai. But Kano, he'd rather focus on exploring age-old tomes in the deepest recess of libraries or hidden within ancient catacombs for spells and tricks to control and amplify his flame. So it says, obviously, he's a member of the royal court, and he must inevitably take on his duty. So inevitably, is it inevitable that the fact that Kano may have to become the Emperor of Volcor because of his royal lineage, or does he just want to piss about and throw fire at people?
But to me, as somebody who has seen the movie Billy Madison, if that doesn't scream nepotism, he's in this high-ranking thing, and all he wants to do is read his books. That sounds like he was given the job by somebody who he knows. It's like, Kano, you got to stop just like lighting things on fire.
Kano's like, come on, Kano. Kano's like, if burning your pants is cool, then call me Miles Davis.
Oh dear. I think we've landed on it. I think Kano is just Billy Madison, but with a magic wand.
I used to joke that Kano would be the Emperor. I'm like, oh, that would be the new special card, Kano, Emperor of Volcor. But I do think it's going to be a new character, and by new I mean a character we haven't seen yet as a hero. I don't think it's going to be like Kano or.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think that it would be that easy either. Like I don't think that they would just reuse that, but I do think it'll be somebody who is related to Kano. Like all jokes aside, that is sort of my guess, my hunch. Because I don't know, to me it just matches up, but it could also be that I'm thinking that because Kano was the first person from Volcor that we saw, so I'm like, oh well, they all know each other, they're all related over there.
Yeah, they're all cool. Yeah. Okay, so what do you guys think the Emperor is going to be in terms of class and talent? Like, is he just a windmill slam draconic? Is he just draconic, or is he going to be like draconic warrior or draconic wizard or something?
That's a good question.
I mean, if we look at the past, what was the last supplementary set? Everfest. What happened in Everfest? Bravo got all of the talents. So is it going to be Kano's going to suddenly be able to play draconic and ice cards for some reason?
I mean, we haven't even talked about Icelander. A lot of folks are thinking Icelander's also related to the royal family.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the polar opposite, isn't it? Fire and ice is like, contradicting elements almost. So is there going to be someone or some sort of character that then does the sort of Starvo thing where they can take all of the talents from the previous thing? I
don't think so, just because of how the talents work, because ice isn't ice. Ice is actually elemental. It's elemental subtype ice. So they would be like draconic / elemental. And the way that they've templated it, just the way LSS has it, is you have to get the powers from Aria, like elementals from Aria. So like Icelander got her ice powers from living in Aria. So even if she's originally from Volcor, she got her powers living in the bleak expanse in Aria. So it's very unlikely that the Emperor is going to have ice.
Yeah, that's cool. The whole lore behind Aria anyway is that like people woke up basically at Corsham at the crossroads when they're like being accepted into Aria, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So it could be that, but I think it feels unlikely that they would go from like probably if that was the situation, it would be like growing up in Volcor, then going to Aria, and then being like, man, Arya sucks, and then back to Voidcore.
I honestly think they're gonna go heavy draconic talent with him. Like he's gonna be like the most draconic possible. Like probably care about chain links and all of that kind of stuff. Maybe have his own rupture mechanic. But also I kind of okay. So what is the class for Tyquaius, the judge promo?
He is an adjudicator, I think.
That's right.
Adjudicator. Yeah. Okay, so the Emperor's probably not an adjudicator, but I mean, it could be its own new thing. Like, it could just be like its own new thing, or it could just be like a draconic. Like, it could just be a draconic hero. Maybe be one of the first heroes that doesn't have a class and only has a talent. I mean, James did say this is going to be a very unique hero, so
yeah.
Maybe that's where it comes in.
Yeah. I mean, I think
crazy.
Yeah, I think Pedro as well on the episode. It was like a throwaway comment, but it didn't go anywhere. But he said 5 intellect.
Oh yeah.
So he was like 5 intellect, and nobody said anything after that. So maybe there's going to be a 5 intellect hero. But as you say, maybe there's a downside where he can only use draconic cards. His card pool. Yeah, his card pool is his hardly any card pool whatsoever, but you get an additional hand size as a result of that potentially.
Maybe.
Yeah, like Data Doll, like for instance, no, actually no, let's not go there. Never mind.
yeah, Data Doll.
Poor
so I mean, like we talked about the potential class that he could be. Well, we do know, and this is 100% confirmation from James White that there will be a new class in Dynasty. So like that's gonna be our next topic. We're gonna talk about a new class and hero in Dynasty. And I want to preface this by saying he said Emperor, and then he said new class and hero. And I'm gonna assume that these are different cards. Like we could just get that assumption out of the way right now, because you can always just say like, oh, it's all the same thing, right? A new hero is the Emperor, and also the Emperor is a new class, and that just covers that all. That could be a possibility, but I think it's more fun to speculate on all of them being separate.
Yeah.
And we do also have 100% confirmation that the class is from the lore book. So it is one of the classes talked about in the lore book.
Yeah. So I did pull that up. Where did that go? So, within the lore book, like, do they mean do you know if they meant the professions page or just something that was referenced in the lore book? I've never actually seen the lore book. So.
James was very vague. He said it appears in the lore book. I think something along, that's like kind of paraphrasing it, but he was very vague with it.
So that would then, unless there's, more within the lore book of references to different professions, we have a list of 12 that are here, and I believe about half of them we've already seen. So the ones that we haven't seen are Alchemist, Assassin, Bard, Necromancer, Cleric.
Okay, so we have seen Bard, sort of.
Right, yes, we've seen Yorick. That's true. And then,
obviously Yorick's a promo and not like in a set, but
he's not like an official hero, kind of. But yeah, for the remainder, it's Guardian, Brute, Wizard, Illusionist, Ninja, Warrior, Ranger. So realistically, if we wanted to even pare that down to not include Bard, then we'd have Alchemist, Assassin, Necromancer, Cleric.
Okay. What do you guys think?
I kind of have my hopes up for Alchemist or Assassin.
I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I'm gonna let you guys go first.
Yeah, I think because this is something that I think, as you had mentioned, either in our last one or the one before, how Vipox mentioning the spider sort of leans toward either Assassin or Alchemist.
Yeah.
With and then I think Kel came in, but was like, but actually with the Oni mask, it's like, yeah, but he's also mixing potions, so I don't know. It's impossible for me to make my own determination. But I think that Vipox could be. I think that's something that they're probably going to want to do now, is like insert hints to the next set in cards from whatever the current set is.
Yeah.
So that, I feel like that's just a nice, fun speculation thing that they can do, and it feels very LSS for some reason.
Yeah, I have so much thoughts on this. I think Alchemist or Assassin are very, very good choices because they are literally both mentioned in the Uprising lore drop. Like it specifically states that there are assassinations going on among the courts of Volcor. So if the Emperor is there, it makes sense that an assassin might be there as well, maybe to kill the Emperor.
Very true.
But also there's like this alchemist lab that gets like set on fire in the lore. So like I think both are possibilities. I really want assassin more than anything, but I don't want it in an expansion set because I want it to be its own class with its own type of cards, like assassin cards. And I just don't want it to be Cavdane, basically, is what I'm saying. Is like I don't want the assassin to be like merchant, where it's just like, here it is, and then you get like no merchant cards.
That would feel pretty bad, I think.
Yeah. I think Alchemist works better for that because there already exists like a bunch of potions. So like you could print a Alchemist, not have to make Alchemist specific cards, just make them synergize with any card that has the word like potion or whatever on it. I think that could work, just like gameplay wise.
Like mixing potions and for different effects and stuff.
Or here's the real spicy thing that I've been thinking about. What if they introduce the new class? Say it's for example, assassin, right? But it's really just a teaser for the assassin appearing fully fledged in the next main set. You know how they kind of drip fed us Icelander? Like they put Icelander in Everfest? And then they're like, oh yeah, Uprising, here's Icelander for real, and then here's all of her cards and specializations. What if they do that for the new class? I'm just using Assassin as the example because that's what I want. But like if they're like, here's an Assassin, and you're like, oh okay, he's just there, or they're just there. And but then they're like, oh yeah, here's the next set, and it's Assassin for real and all the cards and stuff. That would be amazing.
Really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've been thinking about ever since I heard this. I was like, I'm thinking of the possibilities, and I think that would be so cool. And I think Assassin really fits, but
it does, it does. And the sort of backup that I have about Assassin is if you obviously Vipox is the flavor text is only fools resort to violence or force from the spider. And if you look on the lore articles or just like the world of Wraith, if you look under the pit, the spider is basically an order of assassins, and the spider operates in total secrecy. Its service is available only to those who know of its existence. Its assassins are raised from youth, taken from the streets and from the orphanages, their skills honed to forge them into the ultimate weapon.
I just had a thought. So the art on Vipox, they're clearly in either Volcor or Mysteria. It has a very like Asian-inspired background, and he's got the Oni mask, and it's very, very of those two regions in the world of Wraith. But I mean, assassins don't have to, assassinate in their home turf. So that the assassin could be from the pits, disguised as, or maybe like an agent in that area.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then, wouldn't that also fit in with what's the card, like Nourishing Emptiness? Because that one comes like very Asian inspired and always felt kind of out of place for Monarch, unless I'm wrong about that. I could absolutely be, but
no, I think you're right. Cool. I did a whole video on that card, on the art rather on it, because the art depicts a bunch of the heroes dying, and it's kind of like a prophetic kind of thing, and the character on it, when you look at them, they look pretty creepy. Like their hands are way longer and their fingers are way longer than they should be, like proportionally. Like they're actually kind of creepy looking, like in the uncanny like horror movie kind of way,
All right, I'm sat in the dark here, for goodness sake.
Yeah, creepy long fingers.
Oh, someone's looking at me through the window.
Quick, throw a rock at him.
Oh God, there's a copy of Nourishing Emptiness on the ground.
Oh no, there it is.
It's coming for you.
It's Az's image that's depicting as the hero's downfall. Oh no.
You're gonna get dominated.
Yeah. I wish.
But yeah, I think Assassin or Alchemist are both very likely. I know a whole bunch of people are like rooting for Necromancer. You don't really hear a lot of talk about Cleric, honestly, but a lot of
I want there to be a Cleric very badly.
Yes, you do.
I don't think either of them fit in Volcor. And we know Dynasty is going to be a Volcor set. I mean, Necromancer might fit, right? I mean, they could both fit, but the other ones feel more likely based on what we know, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Like, looking at it, as much as I would want a Cleric or a Necromancer, like, the idea of knowing what we know now, or like at this very moment in time about Dynasty, it's like, I think they could probably have a better impact for Necromancer if they saved it for a slightly different set.
I think
absolutely.
My hot take is I don't think we'll see Necromancer until Savage Lands. I think Savage Lands Necromancer makes a lot of sense because Savage Lands is all about strength and life or death, and having a character that's all about death makes a lot of sense. And make him like a witch doctor kind of thing or something. It could be cool, like with like curses and stuff. I'm channeling like Diablo 3 energy here, but
that's what we like though.
Yeah,
the Juju style witch doctor.
Yeah.
We saw the afflictions, didn't we? So maybe there's going to be more afflictions or that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
And then also a lot of folks are thinking like, oh, we're going to have a shadow necromancer. And I'm just like, I don't want to respond to every comment, but I'm just like, there's like 100% chance there's not going to be shadow in the next set. Like, shadow is like a demonastery thing. Or like, people are like, oh, it's going to be a shadow assassin. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like,
probably not just yet.
Yeah.
Like, as cool as that would be,
I
think I'm right there with you. It doesn't quite fit. And the way that they've done the talents up to this point, it feels unlikely that they would just randomly bring it back. I could see them doing a new talent that's, similar. But yeah, like Light and Shadow is very demonastery / the light version of the demonastery. Solana, there we go.
I mean, like, I think it's very unlikely. I mean, I think there could be an entirely talent-focused expansion set at some point where instead of having like support for all of the classes, you have support for all the talents after all of the talents have been introduced. I think that's definitely a possibility, but I don't see a random talent just popping up as a one-off in like a set that's about like the Volcorian dynasty, I don't know.
Again, it just feels like they could have if these are good ideas, but I feel like they could have a much stronger impact. If they were put into a set where they were either front and center or they were just put in a better environment for them to really shine, instead of just being like, oh, this is a cool idea, let's just toss it in here and then see what happens.
What about hero? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you know what I do want to see in the next supplementary set, though?
What do you want to see?
I do want to see a new generic weapon.
Oh, yes. That would be awesome.
I'd love to see more generic weapons, just like more tools that people can just play with if they're struggling for a choice. They can just be like, oh, let's use this and see what this does. Just opens up more lines, and I think that's the place to put it. And more generic weapons in the supplementary sets. That's what I would love to see personally, just as a little side comment.
That's a great point too.
Yeah, I also would like to see one. Who knows? Maybe if the Emperor is only draconic, we either see a generic or a draconic weapon. Be cooler to see generic though. But having like a big halberd or something like that would be awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And just give people options if they don't want to play. What is that card? I have it on my desk right.
Talishar?
Talishar, yeah.
That's it. The rusty sword.
Yeah, yeah. Give him tetanus.
Yeah,
because I think they proved maybe by hedging their bets maybe slightly too much that having a weapon that every class has access to isn't a mistake. They just have to make sure that it isn't like overpowered, which Talishar definitely is not.
No, I mean
exactly.
compare Talishar to something like Rosetta Thorn, and
Yeah. Honestly, even like harmonized Kadachi.
Well, yeah, exactly. Kadachis are pretty good,
So,
but
yeah.
So we talked about a potential new class. What about hero? And it says it's going to be a new hero. I think obviously the new class is probably going to be also a new hero. But do you think there's going to be a new hero in addition to that, like a new warrior, like as you mentioned the guy from Command and Conquer? Do you think we're going to see him in the set as like a new draconic warrior or something like that?
I'd love to see new heroes. I mean, if we look at the trend of supplementary sets, the only supplementary set we've had so far is Crucible of War, and that had a load of heroes in it, load of young heroes in it, which we could use. No, sorry, Everfest obviously had other heroes in it as well. But if you look at the original supplementary set, that was chock-a-block full of random heroes that, you know, some of them weren't given support, like Merchant and stuff. But I love that sort of thing. I love a set which just doesn't care about what's in there. It just gives players like us, people that like to play casually and experiment and other weird and wonderful decks. You know, I love that sort of thing. So I am rooting for a new hero that, you know, is not necessarily ridiculously powerful. And even if it's just a blitz hero, another young hero that we can use in casual formats like UPF, Commoner, you know, I'm definitely all for that. And I hope that we do see that. So I hope the supplementary sets carry on that trend.
Yeah. Do you guys think that it's going to be more akin to like Crucible of War, where we have like a new class and also like a smattering of heroes, or maybe more minimalistic like Everfest?
Personally, I would really like to see more like Crucible style. It was a little bit awkward, I think, for Crucible just because of how thin everything was spread for that one. Like the nice thing about Everfest was that it was a little bit more of a focused supplementary set.
Yeah.
At least the way that I felt about it.
Well, there was a theme, wasn't there? There was a carnival theme around it and stuff, whereas Crucible was just literally a expansion set with random stuff in it for each hero.
Yeah, I mean, like, it makes sense for Crucible because, like, Arcane Rising and Welcome to Wraith were also just kind of, like, random. Like,
That's
they're just
true.
characters from random stuff. But another thing about Crucible is it was literally the third Flesh and Blood set, and we are up to set 7 with Uprising. So Dynasty is going to be set 8 compared to set 3 from Crucible. So I think they might have a little more freedom to go a little bit crazier with it, to have a wider swath of heroes now, because there's
they just have more experience with it in general, right?
Yes.
More experience with supplementary sets. And I would really like to see them do more of a Crucible style thing, but maybe with more focused design. Because when I look back at Crucible, like, I know all of the cards, but they don't, like, and this is like the most annoying complaint of all time, but it's like they don't tell a story, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, you just look at some of the cards and you're like, oh yeah, that's like a cool card, but I don't see how this fits into this like set.
Well, like,
why is this here and not just anywhere else?
Like, not even the weapons all line up. Some of them do, like KO and the claws, but like Data Doll and the freaking shotgun thing, like,
that's that just speaks to me on such a level, though. It's just like pure chaos. It's just a pure chaos set.
It's just like this robot lady walking around with this shotgun.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like, God, just give it to me. Yeah. I mean, I'd even, to be honest, I'd even love to see just a set that just has weapons in it, just a load of weapons and armor, that, you know, like an armory set.
That's what
where you can...
I think that's what Crucible was trying to be, like an armory set.
Yeah, because there was a lot of equipment in there.
Yeah. So you know, but we got all this look forward to, so we'll see what happens.
Do you one last thing about that part? Do you guys think that the heroes are going to be, and this is across the board, including the Emperor? Do you think they're going to be young or adult, or maybe a mix like we saw in Everfest? What do you guys think? Because I I think we could see a bunch of young heroes, and then the Emperor is like, adult, kind of like how they did for Everfest, where like Starvo was adult and all the rest were young. That could be a possibility, or maybe this could be the opposite of crew, and they're just all adult.
I think that could make sense. I think that would be, fine if they did that. I think right now we have a decent amount of Blitz and Blitz only heroes, but we only have one CC only hero, as far as I know.
We don't anymore. Actually,
yeah, we did.
he was a little good, which also brings a lot of concern. Like, well, is the Emperor going to be too good, and he's just going to living legend in like 6 months or whatever?
Yeah, Living Legends somehow in like before the set's even released.
It'll just be Living Legend format of like the Emperor versus Starvo versus Prism and Chain or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. So yeah, that's our speculation about the Dynasty stuff. We have a couple other topics we're going to talk about, but if you have any speculation, dear viewers, let us know in the comments, like what you think, new heroes, new classes, the Emperor, all that good stuff. Very curious to hear everyone's thoughts about this.
Definitely.
To the people who are like, it's going to be a shadow mech, I'm sorry, I don't want to break your heart, but no.
Shadow mech?
I've heard that more than a few times. Like, shadow mech. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen.
Wow.
Again, that's like, it sounds cool, but I don't know that there's room for that, at least not right now.
Yeah.
So what would you do? You'd boost your cards away and then be able to play them from the banished zone.
From the banished zone, yeah. I think that's the idea.
Fantastic.
Sounds a little busted.
You're giving your stuff... Well, I mean, hang on. So you're giving your stuff go again, and you're banishing stuff that you can play later? That sounds like somebody I already know.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
0 to 60 on loop. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. So, also spoken about, discussed in the interview, a little bit less of a positive story, but I think it has a positive outcome, is that Flesh and Blood had some localization issues when they were translating History Pack 1 into the Black Label foreign language versions. And this is something that, they posted about, and by they I mean Legend Story Studios posted about this on the official Flesh and Blood website, fabtcg.com, and it kind of like caught me off guard. I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that like this was a thing. And then they talked about it in more detail in the interview, and I think it's worth noting because obviously Legend Story Studios thought it important enough to bring up an article, and it's clearly like a big deal for the European market, especially apparently French was one of the more egregious translations. But I think it's worth talking about just a little bit. Do you guys remember this topic that came up in the interview?
Yeah, I've heard some amount of discussion around it. I didn't end up seeing any of the actual examples of bad localization, but there are, that this does happen, especially when you're trying to translate to, maybe too many languages at a time.
You're going global.
Going global in general, yeah. Like going up to 5 languages right from one was, it's a big step. Yeah. But it also, like, it takes a lot of manpower and, like, time and knowledge and resources, like, just in general. That's one of the crazy things, even about Magic. There was a set recently, quote-unquote recently, but Shadows over Innistrad very famously had a pretty funny localization error with a card that I believe was called Descend Upon the Sinful. Descend Upon the Sinful. Yeah. And it was like a white board wipe or something.
I know the card.
It's got Avison on it, hasn't it?
I used it in my Kalia deck for flavor once. It's like it exiles all creatures, and then if you have the mechanic, you get make a 4/4 angel on the back end or something like that.
Yeah. Nice. So in French, the way that it was changed up. Hang on, do I have the language? The French one was Fondre sur le pêcheur, But the way that they translated the last word, I think the accent over the E was wrong. And so instead of sinful, it translated to fisherman.
Fish? Yeah, I was going to say, pesh is like fish. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was descend upon the fishermen, and everybody like clowned on them for so long. And that was, again, like recent. Like Shadows over Innistrad came out, like, when's the...
It was a while ago.
The date on these
it
was a while ago.
Back when I still played back when I still played Magic.
It was a while ago, but like 2016. Like this was for Magic in general in their history, like pretty recent.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like it is unfortunate.
It's just growing pains, isn't it? It's just growing pains.
It is. And you know, I can't imagine how excited people were when they found, oh well, I'm actually going to get cards that, you know, especially people who like live in France, or, you know, because it was French, German, Italian, and Spanish.
Yep.
So for people that live where those are the main languages, it would be so nice to hear like, oh, well, now, like if I don't know English very well, or, you know, I just want to play with the cards for the language that I prefer more, then you can do that. That's great. And then you get the cards and you're like, what the hell do these say?
Yeah.
It's all just gibberish.
So for the audience out there, the end result of what actually happened is that they kind of like put out their feelers to the European community to ask about the translations, and they were almost unanimously, I don't know the right word for this, disliked. They were like, no, these are pretty bad. And then LSS was like, okay, we'll recall them all, destroy the product, and then redo it to, you know, keep up to our standards. And the unanimous decision was, no, that's worse. We still want the product. So they're going through with it, but they are going to be, or maybe already have hired more folks to work on this. Like, James said something along the lines of like industry professionals, like seasoned industry professionals who will do the translations.
Cool.
But the fact that they were willing to destroy their entire print run, because
crazy, isn't it?
That's like nuts. Like that takes so much like integrity. Like that's literally putting your money where your mouth is, right? Because they're like, you know, we don't want to make a bad product, so we will lose money. We will destroy it. And the community was like, no, that's worse. We actually we don't want a delay. We want the cards.
We still want Descend Upon the Fisherman. Damn it.
Yeah. By the way, if you are a French, because I know at least a lot of folks who watch Red Zone Rogue, my channel, I have a decent European audience, mostly Germany and France, so shout out to the German and the French audience, but I know other places in Europe as well. But please let us know in the comments down below, which cards in particular do you think are like that bad? I'm very curious. I have this morbid curiosity. I want to know which are like the really bad ones. Because I know they mentioned Ranger specifically in the interview, like that Ranger got translated poorly, and I'm just so morbidly curious on that. Like,
I think I remember hearing that one of the front and center bad translations was like Dorinthia. I think Dorinthia's ability was worded like unbelievably awkwardly. I don't have, you know, I can't tell you if that's true or not, but I do remember somebody saying that.
In the interview, they also mentioned stuff like pitch was like just the word pitch was translated awkwardly, and there's a couple other things like that too.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Instagram now because I remember seeing something on there, and this is from Eunice from Flesh and Blood Europe. I'm not sure if you would have seen him. He's got one of the best mustaches ever known.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
On one of his videos, he said, "Meet and greet." You know, the Rune Blade card.
Oh yeah.
Is called Fleisch and Lust, or carnal lust. So basically just lusting over someone.
With the art, that is hilarious. Because she's just she's got like this big grin holding like a bloody cleaver.
Proper BDSM style. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Oh boy.
Yeah, let us know if there are more of those. Like, I'm very curious. But I think the big takeaway here is that LSS, even though they are literally a small indie studio from New Zealand, a country that's been closed off for the last 2 years, had the integrity to not only address this issue, like, because I know bigger companies would have just been like, whatever, like, whatever, we'll do better next time or whatever. They were like, yeah, exactly, just ship it. But they were like, no, this is our fault. We can do better. Let us destroy it and redo it. Like, the fact that they wanted to do that and they were like, that was their first response, I think says a lot about the company and where their like priorities lie, right? It's not all about, making money. It's about making a product that they're proud of for the community, which is different,
Yeah, and it's like similar to their sentiments of banning cards right out the gate. If they realise that they've made a mistake, they're the first ones to say, right, we've made a mistake, so how can we correct this straight away? They are very, very good at doing that, and obviously it shows in this example as well. So,
Yep. I think it just points to a lot of, it means it shows to me that they're a great company and that, they're learning from their mistakes. They're willing to take the blame and, you can't really grow unless you do stuff like that. And so I think it shows that the company is, probably going to end up in a very good place. I mean, I think they're already in a good place, but I think their trajectory is very, very good.
Definitely.
Yeah, just want to have the nice little bit of positivity on the end of the negative as we're joking about the carnal lust.
I just want that cold foil Azalea full art. That's what I want.
Oh,
that
dude,
looks beautiful.
Those are so. I'm so jealous of those.
You tagged me in that. I was like, oh yes, please give it to me.
I have
I don't care what it says. It could say carnal lust, and I wouldn't mind.
Well, I mean, that you already feel that way, though. Right?
Oh, exactly. That's right.
I was gonna be like, I bet you'd prefer it. Yeah,
I probably would. Yeah. Oh.
I have a German viewer who's like, oh, I can get you some German boxes, and I was like, oh, I really want to, but I just spend so much money on Uprising. I have these other big projects going on, like also cost me a lot of money. Like, I just can't do it. I wish I could. Maybe I'll message him and ask him if he still has boxes in like a couple weeks, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I really need the heroes at the very least, but everybody's gonna want them.
I just really want to open a box of like German Flesh and Blood. I just think that'll be a ton of fun, and try to remember what all the names of the cards are, and try to pronounce all the German names, and it's fun for me because I have like German like heritage, and I don't speak German. I know a little bit of like French, so like French would be like easier for me, but I think German would be more fun. Yeah, I just want to open it up because I back when I was into Magic, I would buy like Korean and Japanese boxes.
Oh
of Magic.
God, yeah. Give us those Asian cards now.
Like I have.
I'd buy those.
I want Japanese Flesh and Blood cards really bad.
Did you guys? Okay, this kind of ties into this, I guess. But did you guys see that some like Japanese Flesh and Blood channels are like popping up, like YouTube channels?
Yes.
It's so cool. Like I saw it, I'm like, yes. Like I know.
Chris posted it on Facebook, didn't he?
I don't remember who. Was it Chris Bewley? I think he did, actually.
So, yeah.
And I'm like, this is awesome. Like,
yeah.
I love to see it, like, expanding across the world, but also, like, Japan has a very thriving TCG card gaming community and market. And so, like, popping up in Japan is really good for the game. And it also is really selfish for me because I want to have a calling in Japan, and I want them to ask me to do coverage so I can travel to Japan and then get paid for it.
Oh my god! Yeah,
it's like the most selfish thing possible, but like I really want that to happen.
Yeah, we'll campaign for you to do that. Yeah, if that's the case, get him to Japan.
I will campaign for myself. I'll just beg LSS, beg Alan. Maybe is Alan the person to beg? I'm not sure, but someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of them. Oh, mate. Great.
So the last little bit of news, and this is just kind of like a little throwaway thing that I thought was like really interesting. Chris from LSS, Chris Goarin, I think I pronounced his last name right, Goarin. He is actually one of the co-founders of Legend Story Studios. Him, James White, and Robbie Wen are like the three co-founders, more or less, of Legend Story Studios. And it's funny, I don't think Chris or Robbie get enough attention. Like, a lot of folks don't even know who they are, and I think they're, like, super, super important when it comes to Flesh and Blood. But anyway, Chris was saying how, like, they were walking around in New Jersey at the Pro Tour, and he walked past an event, and there was, like, a couple hundred people at the event. And he's like, oh, the battle hardens started already, and then he thought like, wait a minute, this isn't where the battle harden should be. The battle harden should be on the other side of the room. This is a commoner event.
Wow.
And he was blown away by how popular both Commoner and Ultimate Pit Fight were at the Pro Tour, and I just think that's awesome. Like, I can.
Oh, it's just
Go ahead,
man. It's just brilliant. It's just like, there's as Flesh and Blood and Legend Story Studios said, it's not all about competitive play. There are other ways to play this game and other ways to experience this game, and UPF and Commoner is just two of those formats. Obviously we got PvE coming out and all that sort of thing, so it just goes to show that people just want to play this game to have fun and just engross themselves in their favorite characters and stuff and just make weird and wonderful decks. That's just fantastic news, really.
Exactly.
So, yeah, love it.
I just thought it was super cool, and I got to personally chat with Chris a bunch at the event. He's a really nice dude. We talked about a lot of Flesh and Blood related stuff, but it's really cool that that they're noticing this, and that hopefully it translates into. I don't necessarily want cards made for these formats, but I would like more official support for these formats in terms of like prizing and events and that kind of stuff, right? So if you could have like, if your LGS could host like prized, like well prized, commoner events and that kind of stuff, that'd be awesome. Like with actual like play mats and promos and the whole shebang. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Even if it's just like a little palette cleanser, like the little event that I did last Tuesday at my local game store, albeit it was the first one in the area, we finished off with a game of UPF from the people that were there, and it was just a nice little palette cleanser to sort of we'll just have a little chill out before we go home now, sort of thing. Nothing too serious, and the game still shines through. You can still make these weird and wonderful decks, as I said before. And still play your favorite characters in that setting. So I definitely think it needs more light shined upon it. Yeah,
I basically just want it so that an LGS could like make a skirmish. Like if they wanted to do Blitz, they can do Blitz, but they can also do like Limited or UPF or Commoner. Like they could just make make their skirmish into any of those things and use the prizing for that stuff because they can just tailor it better to their community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. Tailor it to what your people in the area want to play and what's popular to them, because everyone's different. Everyone's going to have a different demographic as to who wants to play what. So yeah, the moment we get UPF on Gem is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and it just makes it more. I think you mentioned this a little bit. You called it a palette cleanser. I think if people are pretty down on a format, right? So if like all the skirmishes are supposed to be Blitz, right, and everyone's like, oh, Blitz sucks because X deck is like too oppressive, then you can be like, let's not do Blitz, let's do Commoner, or let's do UPF or whatever, and then people can
and if you can still get experience and prizes from it, then just switches it up a bit.
So I mean that's my job. That's my hope. I hope that's what I hope that LSS takes away from all this kind of stuff, is that people want to play these formats and that they should do pricing, like official pricing support for them. And
there's a little bit of an interesting personal story, actually. We have an event at one of our LGSs here in Winnipeg. It's not this weekend, but it's next weekend on the 17th. And the initial idea was to have a UPF event. But LSS actually ended up reaching out when they when they submitted the report for what they were going to do for that event or whatever, and LSS came back and said, hey, actually we're not set up for that yet. If you could choose a different type of event, then that would be preferred.
Interesting.
But I feel like it is very much like right now we can't, but if it does pick up steam, then later, like they're just not able to do or I don't want to use the word condone, but basically condone having more casual formats yet, because it's not actually made for a prize structure. And I mean, Magic has had that issue too, like creating prized events or sanctioned events for a casual format like Commander. there's always been a ton of issues with trying to figure out what the best way to do it is, how to make sure that everybody walks away happy, how to make sure that everybody who wins ends up actually walking away like with prizing that makes sense or whatever. So I can see why, but if they do see the amount of support that it has, then I think it's a when rather than an if for, at the very least, Commoner. I think that Commoner fits in perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's actually going to be quite an issue about that at all. But
yeah, I guess what you said about Commander is quite interesting because obviously it is a casual format, just people playing around a table, and once you start tainting that with prizes and stuff, it may sort of skew it a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely understand that, but yeah, I guess it'd be interesting to see where it goes. Commoner, yeah, definitely more tailored towards the current model.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, UPF, I can definitely see the reasons why you wouldn't want to do that for the prize support, but like, because like, what happens if someone comes in like second place in a pod or something like that? But for Commoner, I don't see why they couldn't just take the skirmish prize structure and be like, instead of Blitz, you're doing Commoner, like, yeah,
just mix it up a bit, definitely.
It's like kind of the same thing, just with like you can't play with rares and majestics and legendaries and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, so yeah, that's going to do it for our Flesh and Blood segment, at least, the 95% of the podcast. We do have an Arsenal step, and this is one that I personally really wanted to talk about, and I think it's one that we could all talk about this week because it has to do with recent news, horrible recent news, the passing of Kazuki Takahashi, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! So I figured we could talk a little bit just casually about Yu-Gi-Oh! Like what it means to us, growing up, or if we still play it, or just anything about it. Yeah, what did either of you play? And we talked about this a little bit before we started the podcast, but did both of you guys play Yu-Gi-Oh! Growing up, and like how early did you start playing? Let's start with.
Who wants to go first?
Let's start with Bill, because I remember him talking a little bit about this.
Yeah.
I'm actually just going to pause for a second. My cat is just about to use his litter box, and it ends up being super loud.
Okay, no problem. No problem.
So yeah, we can just
a pissing cat on the podcast. Lovely.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. But if we can, yeah, you probably hear it now. Unless it, like, I don't know if my microphone actually.
I can't hear it actually.
I can't hear it either. Maybe we should just leave this hole in. This bit in.
Yeah, we'll see if I remember. Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! History.
Okay, hang on. There we go. Okay, we're good. Okay. I'm just
Nice.
gonna just in case you do remember to come back and do this. I'm just gonna now. You should be able to see the waveform of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, actually, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! For a long time, back when I was in high school, just end of middle school, like throughout high school. I think I ended up playing it just about until 2012-ish, because that's, I believe, when I started to play Magic and sort of took that up over Yu-Gi-Oh! But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually had a very big influence on my interest in card games, my interest in just playing games as a group in general, and also back, what was this, 15 years ago, I think.
Must be,
I met Elliot from the Spike Feeders at a Yu-Gi-Oh! Event at an LGS here in Winnipeg.
Nice.
So yeah, if I had never played Yu-Gi-Oh! And never decided to go to events, then I most likely would not have ever met Elliot. And him and I have been friends for longer than we haven't at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Has made an absolutely indelible impact on my life. It is I don't know, they definitely jumped the shark in terms of game design and stuff, but the anime and the manga, phenomenal. I don't think that's even like up for discussion. Honestly.
They're like
the in tandem series as well that was going on Cartoon Network, maybe, or Nickelodeon at the time. UK broadcasters of it, but yeah, it was very much a sort of way of life back then. Just watching that and just playing like on the pavement. Oh, it's just like playing on the pavement with unsleeved cards. Like, what was going on?
Oh yeah.
Oh dear. It's just you look back and think, wow.
I remember getting those like the old tins. They still do the tin sort of like promotional structure or whatever. And I remember getting one with Insect Queen and Obnoxious Celtic Guardian.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
And I remember playing those on the pavement outside. That was the good stuff.
I think Obnoxious Celtic Guardian came out after I had stopped playing. I played right when it came out, like immediately when it came out. My brother and I got the Yugi and Kaiba starter decks. I posted, we talked about this a little bit also before we started recording, but I posted about this on my, everywhere basically, on my Facebook, my Twitter, my YouTube channel. I found my old deck that I played and I posted it, and you can see all the cards are from the original sets, Legend of Blue Eyes, Metal Raiders, Pharaoh's Servant, Labyrinth of Nightmare. Some of them are even first edition. So I had like my first edition Graceful Charity from like the Pegasus starter deck, and I remember like that was the new thing when it came out. You could play with 2 Graceful Charities in your deck because they were like sort of restricted. Back then you had like different levels of restriction and ban. So you could do like completely banned, restricted to 1, or restricted to 2. And Graceful Charity was restricted to 2, whereas like Pot of Greed was restricted to 1. Same with like most of the other staple cards like Change of Heart, Dark Hole, Regeki, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I was a kid, but I went to tournaments. I competed. I always did very, very well. Some of the comments on the post were like, they're like, oh, I bet that deck was really strong back in the day. And yeah, it was good. It was kind of like a fiend control-ish. It was like a hate bearsy kind of deck. I really hated on opposing effect monsters and had a lot of stuff that nullified that. And then I also had stuff like is it Imperial Command or Royal Command that nullifies all magic.
And
then
what was it? There was Imperial Order.
Yeah. So I had the secret rare version from Pharaoh's Servant in that deck, and then I would finish off my opponent through a combination of like Dark Ruler Hades and Summon Skull attacks, and then like Ring of Destruction and Ceasefire, which was a good tech where Ceasefire is a trap where you flip all face down monsters face up, and then your opponent loses 500 for every effect monster on the field. So you can just dome them for a ton. And then I used discard effects, which I don't have in that deck anymore. I'm pretty sure my brother has them, but it was a Delinquent Duo, Confiscation, and then the Forceful Sentry to just rip stuff out of my opponent's hand. And then I had
all cards that are like super banned now because of how good they are.
Oh yeah. And then this is gonna trigger some people. Yatagarasu. I had Yatagarasu in the deck, and then I also use the Mystical Knight of Jackal, which is a card where any monster that it destroys, you can force to go on the top of your opponent's deck. So you can just deny them card draw by like just killing their stuff over and over. And then Yatagarasu makes it so that they don't have a draw step at all. So it's pretty busted and degenerate. I had like Don Zalug in there too to also do shenanigans. It was fun though. It was fun. It's funny because the deck sounds like super busted, but it's not one of the decks like these days where you just win on turn 2 or turn 1 or whatever with all your synchro summons and XYZ shenanigans and stuff.
Yeah. Link summons and pendulum summons. I still don't really know what pendulum summons are, but
I played the Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist 2 on Steam. I bought it on sale, and it just has... You can just play like a single-player story of every anime, all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Animes. And you can also build your own decks and do stuff. And that's how I learned how to do all that new crap, because I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh! Boomer. I quit after like the first like 6 or 7 sets. Like right when Yatagarasu was a thing. That's about when I stopped playing. But Yu-Gi-Oh! I went so deep into it because like it was really big for me. Like I was super into it. Like I said, I played competitively. I had Yu-Gi-Oh! Magazines. I met a lot of friends through Yu-Gi-Oh! Like that compared with, compiled with Magic, and to me, as a kid, they were kind of like the same, right? They're not the same, right? They're different card games, but they're the same in that, like, I played with the same people, and met the same friends, and had the same kind of experiences with the two games, except, Yu-Gi-Oh was bigger for me for a certain period of time. So, yeah, it means a lot to me, and I was pretty bummed to hear of his passing. So it was a bit of a bummer, but I just kind of wanted to talk about it and to, talk about the legacy and the impact that Kazuki Takahashi left on everyone, because I think he's left a really big impact for everyone.
Oh yeah,
without a doubt, yeah, pioneering.
Yeah. It's one of those, he helped shape what card games are these days. Even though, like, he did the manga and the story, every single Yu-Gi-Oh card, if you look at the bottom of it, it says his name. Like, it says it, like, even on modern ones. So, yeah. So, also, this is a lot of, like, audience call-outs. If you have any Yu-Gi-Oh stories, please let us know in the comments. I'm definitely going to read them all. If you're, like, a new Yu-Gi-Oh player, old school Yu-Gi-Oh player, I've already had a lot of people reach out and mention, like, that they're, like, old school Yu-Gi-Oh players, and, those are, like, the golden era. There's so many. I could go on a lot. I'm not going to talk too much more, but, like, I remember, like, when my brother got one of, like, I think it was a bootleg, but he got, like, an Obelisk of the Tormentor card, and this is, like, back before the English, community knew what god cards were, and it was, like, this mythical thing. He's like, oh, he has one of the gods, one of the Egyptian gods, and I'm like, doesn't even say what it does on it, right? Because it's the one that's just all blue. It's like that one. It might have been a promo. It was in Japanese.
I think they were included in, I don't remember what the name of the games were, but I'm pretty sure they were Game Boy Advance games.
It could be. So my brother and I did have multiple Game Boy Advance games, and the ones that we had came with Sinister Serpent, Harpy's Feather Duster, and then another card that I think sucked. But I played with Sinister Serpent and Harpy's Feather Duster because that's, like, Sinister Serpent's, like, my favorite card. I love that card.
Oh yeah. Also another busted card that they had to
it's so good.
They had to errata to not be as good as it is.
Oh, it's so good. You just, like, pitch it to anything and it just comes right back. You can use it to block. Oh, I love that card. That got so much use. I put that card, like, probably one of my most played cards, like, in any game. But yeah, he had the blue Obelisk Egyptian god card. And these are, like, these stories that I remember. Like, it was so cool.
Yeah.
They might have been given out, like, in Japanese versions of the game. So, like, the card was in Japanese and it had the Japanese Yu-Gi-Oh card back, as opposed to the US one.
I think that's basically how those were set up. Is like, they were promos, and there was specifically because, like, in the English versions of the same games, I think instead of the god cards, you got, like, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, the Magna Warrior, or the Magnet Warrior.
Yes. So we also had those ones too. So you got Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and then Valkyrion, the Magna Warrior, which is, like, the big one that they all form into. Good luck doing that. It sounds cool, but there's no way in hell you're gonna do that.
Oh yeah, it was Contact Fusion before Contact Fusion was actually a thing, so you actually had to, like, just have them all out somehow by normal summoning them. Like, it was awkward.
And you needed, and Valkyrion wasn't, like, an extra deck card. Like, you
needed to be in your hand.
It's basically like you needed 4 cards, and if you just need 4 cards, you should just be playing Exodia and get that one extra card, and then just win on the spot. Anyway, yeah.
I think we could go on for a long time, but there's it was definitely something. This topic in general, even though it doesn't have to do with Flesh and Blood, I think you're absolutely right in that, like, just such a formative experience. And sometimes, I don't know, at least for me, it's not like that I've forgotten it, but it did have a really big impact on my life in general. So it's good to just be able to to reminisce about that sometimes. So
Yeah.
For me, it was just one of those games that we all played together. I mean, I didn't really make any cohesive decks. I mean, I think the deck that I made that I remember back from then was based on Toon World. Was it? You played the Toon World, then you could play all the Toon characters instead.
The Toons were a pain in the butt because they could attack directly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember playing that, and it's just one of those games that we all played back then, and it's just a bit of a just throws you back, doesn't it? Back, when you hear this news, it throws you back to when you were playing it back then, and it is quite a nostalgic thing. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, really, but
yeah. I think it's just good to talk about one of the pioneers of the TCG industry, like Yu-Gi-Oh has been a staple ever since it existed. So
absolutely.
You gotta give respect where respect is deserved, and I think it's very, very, very well deserved. But yeah, any other things you guys want to say before we cap off this episode today?
That's pretty much it. Yeah, we've done some good stuff.
That's hit on basically everything that I was wanting to talk about. So. Yeah, but I do also just want to shout out again, like Cal said, if you guys have any Yu-Gi-Oh stories, if you guys have any stories about the translation errors or anything, let us know. We're, I think that this is a conversation that a lot of people could have for a long time. There's just lots to say about both. So feel free to chime in.
Also, all the speculation, too, on the Emperor, all the classes and heroes and all that kind of stuff. So,
who is the Emperor?
Yeah. Who is the Emperor?
Who is going to have the correct sort of speculation? Leave a comment in the section below. Are we right? Are we wrong? Do we look like fools in a couple of months' time? It's all to come, people.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out. But, thank you all for watching, by the way. As always... it's greatly appreciated. The podcast has been doing pretty well. It was great to hear people like chime in about it on the stream that we did, being like, "Oh, I love the podcast," and that to me tells me that we're doing some good stuff here. So it's greatly appreciated that y'all are here to listen to this and to watch it and stuff.
Definitely.
Where can the audience find y'all on socials and on the YouTubes? Let's start with Az this time.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Az from the United Kingdom, and I do various content. Obviously, you'll come to see some of the stuff that I mentioned earlier on my channel. That is Go Again Gaming. Still very, very small in comparison to a lot of people that are out there, but I'd appreciate if you navigated over to there as a result of listening to my British voice on this video and give me a little subscribe. Thank you. And you can find me on Go Again Gaming AZ on Twitter as well, where I post all sorts of nonsense from time to time. So, yeah, please go and have a look.
Yeah, absolutely. I am Bill from the Spike Feeders. You can find me on Twitter at BillTSF. I tweet infrequently, and when I do tweet, it's about random stuff.
Very profound.
Yeah. I mean, my most recent tweet was me complaining about the new Doctor Strange movie.
We spoke about that last week, didn't we, in passing a little bit?
I think so, yeah. But yeah, anyway, so feel free to follow me on there. You can also find, I do live gameplay videos on Spike Feeders FAB, which is our YouTube channel. And yeah, that's just about where you can find me.
Nice. Then I'm Kel, also known as Red Zone Rogue on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm mostly active on, obviously, YouTube and Twitter. I most recently posted about, retweeted a quote from Anthony Bourdain, who is someone that I very much used to look up to, and I still look up to him. And then I also posted a meme about, it was a Yu-Gi-Oh meme about, I'm just going to read it because it's so good. It just says, Shadow Realm, I'm sending you to the round 1 losers bracket to play against the friend you carpooled with for 4 hours. I love that meme because that is so true. Anyway, thank y'all for listening, and we'll see you next time on another episode of the Living Legends podcast.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you very much.